Mr. Cheney.
It is. It is.
All right, I'll start it. It'll give you a 5-second countdown, and then I'll start talking, and I'll give you some questions to answer.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Big old countdown. It should be only 3 seconds.
You know, it adds anticipation. But I am here with Steve, and for anyone who doesn't know, me and Steve have been connected because when I first started Socialync, this guy gave me every single bit of advice, feedback, a little bit of criticism, and let me tell you, the app has gotten so amazing just because of this person right here. So I had to interview him. Steve, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast finally. How are you doing?
So good to be here. So good to meet you finally.
Steve, I wanted to ask, what do you use Socialync for, just to start? Because I want to backtrack to where you're at before you got.
Okay, well, I'm a lot older than you. And I can remember the days where the only thing you had to worry about was posting on Facebook. Yeah, and that was it. Okay. I on one of my accounts, I did build up quite a following on the Black Star Studio account. But even back then, posting was a pain. Scheduling wasn't available to start with. And anyway, sort of, I've progressed in different areas of creativity over the years. And to be totally honest, I had a little bit of an upset a few years ago, and I've had a 2-year break of literally no social media. Yeah. So the timing of your app as well has been absolutely perfect for me. Because I personally have to take a different approach in as much as I've got various accounts, okay, that technically have become dormant. Fortunately, followers haven't fallen off, yeah.
Right.
I knew from the start that I would have to create a lot of posts, even if technically they go to waste to start with, just to actually let people know that Steve's back posting regularly, you know. So I needed a scheduling platform, okay. And to be totally honest, I did research quite a few. There were quite a few, I won't mention names, but there were quite a few that I'd used or at least tried in the past. And I was just looking for something different. And I won't lie to you, I stumbled across Socialync, and am I glad I did?
Me as well.
I dived straight in, and immediately it was like, actually, I like this. Yeah, this is simple. That's easy. That's straightforward. There was nothing complicated about it at all. You know, I know that we went through together, you know, sort of various aspects of the platform, of which I was quite touched about, to be honest. It was nice. It was nice to suggest something, say something, and get a response, you know. And how quick you implemented things was just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things, is when you would ask to like see something, and I'd implement it maybe that night or the next day, and I'm just hoping you see it on the dashboard or something the very next day and just make your day. That was something I always looked forward to.
Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to ask, you know, what are you using Socialync for? You're raising awareness. I know that's what you're doing, but like you said, you have multiple different accounts. You know, what are you posting about? What are you trying to raise awareness for?
So this year I've kicked off. If you don't mind me telling a little bit of a backstory.
Please do.
I grew up. My childhood was very negative and very abusive. And without going into too much detail, I always knew that I wanted to tell my story. Okay, and the best way I thought to tell my story was to write a book. And for decades, and I'm serious, decades, I used to say, one day I'll write a book about it. One day I'll write a book about it. Eventually I did. And in 2015, I took a complete year or so break from all of my commercial art and design work, and just decided I need to do a project for myself. And I just dived into this book. And I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but definitely as a creative, once you focus and you're in that zone, yeah, nothing can tear you away. Yeah, and you're just
Hmm.
there. You're just there. You know, day, night, sleep doesn't matter, food doesn't matter. You just go, you know. Um, so in 2015, as I said, I completed the book. Um, Again, I won't go into the stories, but it took 5 years, yeah, to actually get it published. If you don't mind, I'll show it to you. That's my book, and it's called My Life Naked and Raw. And there's a nice little picture of me on the back there. But yeah, it's quite a chunky book, but it is literally what it says on the tin. You know, it's even negative things that I've done in my life. You know, I disclosed. But the main crux of it, especially in the early part, was to tell people of the seriousness of the abuse in the childhood, you know, situation growing up. So for the first sort of 18 years of my life, you know, literally my earliest memory is from the age of about 3 to 4 is my earliest, and even from then I can remember witnessing domestic violence. Okay, so I've grown up with domestic violence. Um, as a victim, I've grown up with physical abuse, mental abuse, and sadly sexual abuse. Okay, and I wrote my book for three reasons. Okay, one, it was the best therapy for me ever. Yeah, so it was so therapeutic and cathartic for me to
Right.
pour it out in a different way. Number two was that if my stories can help anyone, yeah, know that they're not alone. Um, and I appreciate people who've gone through far worse than me. Then that's done its job. Yeah, and the last reason was basically to let the perpetrators know that they haven't got away with it, because technically now the whole world can know. Okay, so
Hmm.
whether you call that revenge, retribution, or what, I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, to me, they were the main reasons. Um, Now, in order to promote the book, obviously, it is very difficult. Yeah, and okay, many people read books, but it is a difficult media um, to get noticed. Okay, so not being happy with that, I'm very musically minded. Yeah, so
Mm,
5 years
okay.
later, yeah, I produced an album. Yeah, but the album was specific and really to accompany the book. Okay, if I may, this is the album, Unconventional, it's called. And the back cover, I don't know if you can see, but where are we? This little boy here. This is me. This is me at the age of about, I think I was about 4, I think there, with my nan,
And where was this taken?
and my siblings. This was in a house that we moved to in Shropshire. We used to live in London. I was
Mm,
born in London, but we moved up to Shropshire. Beautiful house, but not such beautiful memories. Um, so anyway, so what I did was actually a lot of the lyrics from most of the tracks are actually taken from poetry that I wrote in my youth. Okay, and I used poetry as just one of the self-taught coping mechanisms, yeah, to deal with abuse. Yeah, I used to find writing poetry was an outlet for me that I could get things out of my head onto paper, and I just kept them for years and years and years and years. Um, and then uh, when desktop publishing came about with Apple Macs, yeah, in the
mm.
UK, I literally got all of my handwritten poetry and everything and typed them up, and kept those as well forever and ever. Then I think in '92 I decided, you never know, I might be able to do something with these one day, and I copyrighted them at the time. Um, And I was also at the time as well in the early 90s, I was involved with, I think it was called something like the International Guild of Songwriters and Composers. Okay.
You're everywhere. Oh my goodness.
And the idea then, back then, it was just a magazine. Yeah, it was a magazine, and at the back of the magazine was a whole listing of people that wrote music and people that wrote lyrics, and basically you try and team up with people. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure you probably can't imagine this, but we used to I used to say post off lyrics to someone, yeah, and maybe weeks and weeks later they would send back an audio cassette, yeah, of music that they'd composed for it. And it was a
You
fun,
had a musical pen pal.
yeah, it was a fun
That's
little
the way to
project.
describe it.
To be totally honest, I didn't really get anything out of it, so I put it to one side. However, after doing the book, yeah, because I am a bit of a computer geek, um, I decided to do this album. Like I say, so 5 years later, I kind of this year, I released the album. So to me, um, people listen to music more than they read books. Okay, so it makes sense to promote the album in order to get the context of the book. Okay, the ultimate goal for me, which may take several years, my ultimate goal is actually to transform the whole book, the story of the early years and what have you, into a mini TV series. Okay, now, in order to do that, you have to collect ammunition, basically. Yeah, I've spoken to various production companies and what have you, and what they need to see is different types of media. Yeah, plus you have to kind of demonstrate that there's an interest for it. Yeah, which is understandable. Now, the only way to do that nowadays is obviously through social media. Yeah, so this, yeah, the book, the music is what I am publishing about, yeah, on social media, and the whole thing is an awareness campaign against abuse for people like myself, survivors and victims. So that's
Hmm.
where I'm going with it. But I also appreciate I need a long-term strategy. It's not going to happen overnight. Um, so your platform is ideal, yeah, um, for me to, how can I put it, to analyze the data basically, yeah, and to play with different posts. Yeah, so effectively you can get the metrics from different posts, different days, different platforms. And to be honest, I'm still in that stage with your platform. Okay, but it is generating. I I'm pushing lots on Spotify. I did get some advice that and I think it's good advice in as much as with something like, not necessarily this, could be anything, I guess, yeah, is to make yourself available everywhere. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
Yes.
even if, no, so I mean, if I mention them, I mean things like X or Twitter or what have you, LinkedIn, yeah, they're my least favorite platforms.
Me as well.
And um, but nonetheless, because I have accounts, you need to utilize them. Again, be available everywhere. Yeah. The flip side of the same advice was actually um, do put all of your eggs in one basket. Yeah. I.e., yeah, send your message out to as many platforms so you're making yourself available. However, try
Hmm.
and concentrate on one or two platforms. Yeah, because if you can get your numbers up, if you can get the interest up on one or two platforms, it will filter eventually to the others. You know, so
Right.
so that's the route that I'm particularly taking. So I'm really concentrating um, on Instagram as my main social media feed, if you like, um, and on Spotify for the music aspect. Yeah.
Hmm.
There's one thing that I have noticed, which might actually interest you. I don't know, but on your particular platform, yeah. To be honest, my metrics are not very good. They're pretty rubbish. Yeah. Yeah. However, yeah, it's not a true story of what's happening in the world. Yeah, in as much as I can tell um, from the numbers of views and everything on my own posts and what have you, that with respect to dates and things like that, it's translating and is already translating through to Spotify. Okay, so I'm really happy with my Spotify progression. Okay, with monthly listeners, the amount of plays, saves, playlists, this sort of thing. I'm really happy with the way Spotify is going. Yeah, now that can only be a result of what I'm doing with your platform. As simple as that. So it is working.
I'm not too familiar with posting to Spotify. Obviously, I post the podcast to Spotify, but I do want to ask you kind of, is Spotify made are most of the streams that come from Spotify, you mainly have to get them from other platforms?
Yeah.
Because does Spotify push it out there at all, or once you push it out there and you have a low following, you kind of stay low until someone from the outside source comes out? Is that how it kind of works with Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify is very difficult. There's no internal communication structure in Spotify. Yeah, so I don't even know who my listeners are. So you have
Hmm.
zero information, literally. Okay, so there's only really all you can do is use external sources to push people in that direction, and just hope, or as I've been doing, like I say, I can tell from my posts that it is working. The people are going in that direction. It is frustrating
Hmm.
sometimes. You just want to sort of, message a few of your listeners, and you simply can't. So you have to rely from external sources. You can do other things like believe it or not, I'm getting quite a nice following on radio, live radio plays in Brazil.
Wow.
Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. But I'm not questioning it. I'm just going to go with it. So
The strangest metric channels you can have. It sounds like you have those on on Mark right there. That's amazing. That's great. So you are a bit of a, I don't know what the word would be, like someone who writes poetry. What, a poet? Yeah, a poet. I'm sorry. You're a song artist.
yeah, yeah.
You're you paint. Do you paint and do that? Because I've seen the shirts that you sell on the shop.
Yeah,
Those are amazing.
yeah, I do.
You write a book.
Yeah, it's,
So you do all the art forms. I do want to ask, I mean, obviously you want to raise awareness, so this might not apply to you, but most people who, like to build stuff, like to express themselves, really don't like the pushing out part, like the distribution. They like creating,
yeah.
they like kind of showing their work, but it's something that kind of annoys a lot of people and burns a lot of people out. Have you encountered any burnout in sense of like pushing your brand and what you're doing, your music and all that stuff out, or have you been maintaining that very well? And if you have, what have you been doing to mitigate burnout?
Um, I first of all, I can totally understand that kind of scenario, and for many, again, for many years, it's just something I used to always say is, well, all I want to do, I live to create. That's pretty much what I do. I live to create, and I would happily be a Jackson Pollock, just locked away, just lock me away, let me create, and someone else take care of everything else because that's all I want to do is create. Um, but in the past, I have actually tried sort of taking one or two people on board, to do certain aspects. And I don't know if it's because I'm particular or what, but I've never been happy with the results. And like many things, you'll know yourself. It's like, no one can do that the way I want it done or the way I need it to be done. So I
Hmm.
did shy away from the internet many years ago. I did shy away from it a great deal, and then I literally just bit the bullet and said, right, there's no escaping it. As simple as that. There's no escaping it. and you've just got to do it, you know. So I do all my own video editing and things like that as well. So, and again,
Wow.
I prefer to do that. It saves me. Obviously, there's many things that I do um, that save me a lot of money, you know, because I can do them in house. The problem is time, you know. And again,
Hmm.
I'm not here to, I'm not here on commission for your for your platform, but again, it just, your platform has helped a great deal because I can remember years ago doing regular posts, and I, I would always be in that weekly position of, damn, what am I going to post tomorrow? Damn, what am I going to post at the end of the week? What have I got lined up for next week? I've run out of posts. You know? So, I mean, as you're fully aware, I mean, my initial thing, or my initial strategy with your platform is I created 3 months worth of posts, yeah, in one,
Hmm.
pretty much in a day or two, yeah. And,
You just hands off after that.
yeah, it was, well, to be honest, I did it to buy myself some time, okay? So,
Hmm.
so effectively, like I say, as I said earlier, I knew that a lot of posts will go by the side, they'll go to waste, but you've got to start with something. You've got to kickstart it all back up again, you know? So,
Hmm.
so I used the two different profiles that were available to me, and I purposely split certain accounts onto one profile, certain accounts onto another profile, and purposely, despite what some of the information on the internet will tell you with respect to the supposed perfect posting days, posting time for certain platforms, I kind of chose to ignore it. Um, and like I say, on the two profiles, I did 3 days, 3 days of posting on one set, 3 days of posting on another set, and left myself 2 days, Monday to Friday, basically free, so that I could slot in any other post that I'd like to do. Yeah, but technically,
Hmm.
between the two profiles, Monday to Friday has every day has a post. Okay. Um, the reason I did so many posts ahead is because, again, going back to creativity, if I'm in a zone, yeah, I I know that in 2, 3 days I can not bash out X amount of posts, but I know that I can create certain posts. Plus,
Right.
because you're in that creation mode, yeah, you could be creating a post and then think, actually, this would be a good idea. Okay, I'll save that. Once I've finished this, okay, we'll work on that. Yeah, so you can come up with a whole, bunch of different style posts, you know, and I know that I can allocate myself 2 or 3 days, yeah, solid, just to do posts, yeah, which means if there's enough there to to schedule, yeah, for the next month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it may be, that's just bought me time. That's taken the pressure off, you know. During that time, I still might think of something else that I want to post, but then I'll be more strategic and think, well, actually, what I've just thought about to post, I could slot that one in there, yeah, or I can
Hmm.
keep that idea or keep that for a later date, you know. So there is a lot of going on the creation side, if you like, but only because your platform allows me, yeah, to really sort of go hard at it, yeah, and like I say, take the pressure off. So I anticipate that I will continue to do that. So I will never be in that position again of, damn, what am I going to post next week? I've run out. Because, because as you know, social media, a lot of everything is about consistency. Everything is about momentum. Yeah, and without those two
Hmm.
things, you don't stand a chance with anything, you know? So it's,
People want to see a familiar face or a familiar tone, and that is what they're looking for. So, like, if you're not consistent when you first start, you're going to miss out on a ton of opportunities. That actually, what you mentioned. So, first of all, thank you so much for just expressing how much you like Socialync. That means genuinely the world to me, and hopefully, I can continue to do right by you. But you mentioned something earlier in the podcast, and it was when you were writing your book. You mentioned that you didn't have to eat, you didn't have to sleep, you could work for so many hours, and you just go, go, go. And I wanted to ask, I know exactly that feeling. Entrepreneurs and sometimes a lot of content creators have that feeling, but has it gone away from you? Like, are you now getting to the point where, you can feel your energy levels fluctuating, unlike it's just max RPMs all the time, like when you're posting content? Have you gotten to that point, or are you still, go, 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 I don't need to eat?
Yeah, no, I'm still go, go, go. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever really suffered from burnout. It's I do need someone else within my camp to to technically keep me alive because I'll just not eat, drink, or anything. Um, but no, I just create all the time. My brain just doesn't stop when it comes to creativity, and as long as there's a purpose to it, I cannot, forgive me for any listeners out there that might do such a thing, but I'm not interested in seeing a post of what you had for dinner today. That does nothing for me whatsoever. You know, but and I think I'll be buzzing from this for a long time because it has such a cause. There's a massive potential impact that whatever I'm doing, can have for many other people for a serious reason, for abuse. And sadly, no matter how much I do, it may only be one little drop in the ocean. Abuse will never stop. As simple as that. Yeah.
Right.
But if that one little drop in the ocean helps X amount of other people, then it's doing something and it's working. So, but going back to your original question, no, I really don't suffer from burnout at all. So I just,
Do you feel like you carry a duty or things on your shoulder, when you're posting content and making these artworks and the book and all this stuff? Like, do you feel like as if you owe it to yourself and that person that's also experiencing what you experienced when you were a kid? Is that what kind of helps you, continue going?
to a degree, I won't lie. In on one hand, not that I have any plans of disappearing from this earth yet, but I like the fact of knowing that I'm leaving a legacy of my story behind. The world will know that I existed, as simple as that.
Hmm.
And then on the flip side, I genuinely do like to help people. I help people all the time in different ways. Um, and I've done things like there are some Facebook groups for sort of abuse victims and survivors and what have you, and and the biggest problem that I'm finding, which I'm trying to get one or two of the groups to open up a bit more, is they're happy to sort of post about certain things of their life, but there's literally no engagement between all of the people you know. So I'm trying to sort of get them to change and talk a bit more openly. Some people are very afraid of talking out. For someone like me, a male abuse victim is, there's very few of us that speak out publicly. Okay, it's generally always the females. Um, but I know that I can, and I know that I have done. You can write some genuine. It's not just kind words. You write genuine thoughts to other people, yeah, and you don't even have to tell them, oh, I've been through that because I did this, I did this. It's not all me, 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 me.
Hmm.
You actually empathise with what they're going through, um, and you can give forms of encouragement. And the other big thing about my particular project for this year and onwards is just encouragement. Is just to get. I'm only a human being. Yeah. If I can put the thoughts and the stories of my head, in black and white on paper, anyone can. You know. And there's no
Right.
there's no reason why people can't tell their stories, even if they remain anonymous in some sort of way. You know. But it does help. It does help to speak out. As simple as that. So yeah, that's kind of the mission that I'm on. Is
Yeah.
to tell the story, make other people aware that they can do it, you know.
I expanding on the Facebook group where people are talking, and it's kind of a closed loop. Um, I've seen a lot of your content. I haven't explored, down the rabbit hole of your content on Instagram, but I've seen a good amount of it. Your songs are presented on there. A lot of your work is presented on there. Your book is presented on there. So you're doing a good job on that, coverage front. But you know, have you started to do what other creators are doing in the sense of, hey, you're providing this value to these people in these Facebook groups, giving them, acknowledgement that, hey, like, I know what you've been through. You don't have to say anything, but just know I see you. Have you, you know, um, adventured into posting content on Instagram since that's your main channel of posting? Have you ventured into making videos like that?
I am literally at that point now, you know. So it does kind of scare me a little bit, but the other thing I noticed on the metrics and what have you is that um, posts that got the most views were posts of me. You know, not super duper things that I've created through video editing and what have you. Yeah, so um, I'm I've mapped out the start of the process. Yeah, and actually this weekend, stroke next weekend, I will actually start doing some video posts of me, you know, talking about aspects of either maybe I'll have to sort of tell a few of my own stories in order to sort of get across the seriousness of people's abuse, but also just talking to people or talking to a camera as if there are people there, you know. And yeah, so that's coming. But again, I know I keep picking you up, but again, your platform has allowed me that time, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to sit back again because the pressure's been off because I could post 3 months ahead. Yeah, the pressure's been off, so now I can think of, okay, what's next? How are we going to work this? You know, so I know I have time, and my posts haven't run out yet. You know, so
Right.
so yeah, it's all on its way. I'm glad to say as well. I've got my book editor, Dr. Tracy King, who's actually a clinical psychologist. Um, the two of us are the end of next month, I believe. We're going to start kicking off a podcast series. Yeah. So to do obviously with my book and abuse and everything else. And at the end of the day, she's a clinical psychologist. She's my editor. She knows what questions to ask. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be fantastic. You know, to again for
Right.
the awareness project. You know. So.
Yeah, that'll be really good. That's awesome. And there's so much content there, and you'll be able to hit so many different facets of what people deal with. And, there's a big um, shift in content with big creators with kind of what you're doing is, raising awareness, a lot with not necessarily like self-help, but, people just kind of speaking out and giving words of encouragement, like, it's called Hope Core. I'm sure. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, yeah.
That does so fascinating, and I genuinely can see you, saying something because you have a background in poetry, so you can just word it, beautifully. I can see you on those kind of videos where you're giving, words of encouragement and giving people hope, even though, kind of what's going on in the past happened. So I'm super excited to see what you're going to make in the future.
I mean, I don't know if I'm a believer in it, but I've always kind of thought that when you come from something that's so negative, yeah, I genuinely believe that you either continue the same route or you just veer off and go totally the opposite way, you know. And fortunately, I've obviously gone the opposite way. But yeah, the amount of people that actually um, give me credit for how I've turned out, considering what I've been through, you know, which is obviously very nice, and you know, it's always nice to get a compliment. But I kind of really don't take it on board because I don't know any different. You know, that's just the way that I've developed.
It's just you.
Yeah,
It's just you.
yeah. So I don't take sort of big credit for it. Um, my wife will tell you that I'm actually probably I'm my biggest critic. Yeah, yeah, I really am. So yeah, it's a heck of a journey, and obviously, like I say, I don't mind saying it. What am I? 57, now, and yeah, I hold no fear of anything. Yeah, I'll tell you one other thing that may, I don't know if it may just be something that's happened in my brain, but believe it or not, when I was 18, I was in a coma for 18 days. I was given a 10% chance of living. Okay, and they said if he lives, he'll probably have brain damage, which I may well have. I don't know. But it was so serious that even though I wasn't living at home at the time, my parents were involved, obviously, at the hospital, and they'd signed the paperwork, turned the machines off. Yeah, and it came to a Sunday night, and they said by midnight Sunday night, if there's no sign of anything, and that was it. They signed the paperwork, said yeah, okay. And I don't know how, but 1 hour later, at 1 o'clock in the morning, fortunately, no one had got round to switching any machines off, and I started pulling through, you know and kind of not that I'm advocating that anyone should have such a horrific experience, but personally, from that moment onwards, something did change inside my brain. Yeah, that's for sure. And I kind of lived or live in life in the mentality that as long as I don't do anything so negative in life that's going to put me in prison and take away my freedom, I should be able to cope with anything that life throws at me, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that a lot of my poetry and what have you, yeah, sort of sparked from there as well, Um, Dreaming is a nightmare for me. It sounds silly, but ironically, I don't have nightmares, yeah. But I mean, dreaming is a nightmare. Is that dreaming drains me, yeah. Since coming out of a coma, I dream every single time I close my eyes. Okay, and that could be a 15-minute nap. If I'm having a quick nap, I'll dream. Yeah, if I'm asleep all night, I'll be dreaming constantly. Yeah, and it wears me out. I wake up so drained from
Are they
dreaming.
just super like just
And it,
I don't even know like dream?
yeah, honestly, it's just so strange. But it's almost. I have had a doctor say, look, we can give you a pill or something and take that away and you'll be fine. And I don't want to take it away because it's almost like a second life in a sense. It sounds weird, but it's almost like
They're
living.
super vivid.
Yeah, they're really, really vivid. I have senses of smell, touch, taste, everything within these dreams. Okay, and they can just be ordinary situations. Nothing's not always out of the extraordinary. Um, but I kind of enjoy them as well, and I also believe that I get some kind of creativity from them as well. And it keeps me going. I don't want them to stop. They're,
Right.
much as it drains me, it's again to me, it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, you woke up after your second life and you're like, shit, I'm right back to my first life. I gotta go again. Wow, it really does sound like something up above wanted you to be here right now to, spread the message that you're spreading now. So I'm very
Yeah,
glad that, that you hit the 10% chance. Like that's
yeah,
amazing. I'm glad you're here.
yeah, cool. But no, it's I'm pleased. I'm pleased with the project. It was scary to launch, yeah. In as much as do I really want my face and telling stories, and of course there are some really close family members that effectively um, I had to consider them, and I had to tell them, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, are you okay with it? Because potentially, you're my son, you're my daughter, and everything. Certain things may impact you, or are people going to think of you in any different way? And fortunately, all they just, yeah, go ahead, do it. What you're doing is fantastic. Carry on, tell the world. Go
That's great. A lot of people struggle with that because, you know, they don't want to, you know, do any harm to their family. So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But Steve, it's been a great podcast. I'm so glad to have you on, and you're probably going to be back on here again because there's just so much to talk about, and it sounds like you're about to launch your new kind of content style with what you said earlier. So we'll reconvene.
Back. Hey, let me get a few more video posts out and what have you, and then we can chat about that and see what the
Exactly.
the
I
response.
cannot wait. But thank you, Steve. I love all that you're doing. All of your links, everything is going to be put into the description. Anyone watching can go check it out. Go support Steve. What he's doing is amazing. Steve, any last words you want to give anyone?
Only to everyone who's listening who can relate to any of this. Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, you're not alone. As simple as that.
Thank you. All right, Steve, have a great rest of your day.
And you, all the best to you. Take care. Ciao.
Oh. Okay, I think I'm ready. So yeah, I was checking out some of your Instagrams, your story. It's really interesting.
Help our campaign to stop abuse. Like, follow, share, comment, subscribe. Every click makes a difference.